Hi, my name is Mark Ruszczyk. This is my Torker MX26. Torker kicked off a lifetime of bicycles for me, from racing at an early age, 82, to working at a bike shop, watering their racetrack on Friday nights, racing 4 or 5 times a week, working in another bike shop, to getting into a real job but still riding. And now 40 something years later, here I am at Dirtyfest. Back in the day, I had a red used Torker frame that I picked up as my first real BMX bike. Like a lot of kids, I started off on a department store bike and then ended up looking to get on something better. So around 82 is where I pick up the used Torker. So I picked up the red used Torker and started building it up with whatever I could get for parts at that point in time. Back in 82, didn't have a lot of budget, so picking up things at the track was the way to go. So this thing built up is trying to replicate what I had back then. I had a red front wheel, I had a gold rear wheel, and I had whatever parts I could scavenge from there. When I saw Torker was coming back, I got really excited. I wanted to build up what I had back in 82. And I saw initially everything was going to be chrome. So I took a chance and I emailed and I said, hey, are you going to do colors? And Bill emailed me back about 2 hours later, which I thought that was rad to begin with. I was getting an email back from Bill Ryan pretty quick. And he said, we have a lot of plans that we can't talk about yet. And my first thought was, well, he didn't say no. So I'm going to take a chance and hang on and see what happens. Second run gets announced and the red and the blue and the black all came back. So I was stoked. I think I pulled the trigger at 5 seconds after they went live on the website and ordered the frame and fork, and had it sitting in my garage for about 9 months. I basically just built it up last weekend before Dirtyfest to get here. So trying to go through and replicate again what I had back then. A lot of it's from memory because I don't have any pictures. I can't pull them all back together, but taking you through what I built on this bike to replicate what I had back in 82. Again, the wheels mismatched. I purposely got a red front rim and a gold rear rim and went through and laced up the wheels myself. The hubs are actually mid-school. I got them off a friend of mine, so there's some nostalgia and some sentimental value there. I wanted to hold on to those and keep them on the bike. Plus their profiles, they're rad. They run all the time, so keep those on the bike. The red front Comp 3, I remember racing back that same time frame, early 80s. There was one really muddy day at our local track, Preston, Connecticut, and I slid out in a turn. So one of the rare times I did get a new part was my dad said, hey, let's stop by the bike shop on the way home, get a better front tire for you. So I ran a red Comp 3 on the front, and that's what I put on here. Rear tire, I had a red snake belly on the rear, and there's nobody making real red snake bellies yet. There are some black ones out there, but I wanted red, so I went with the SE tire on there, close enough to a snake belly for me, and skin wall on both because that's what we had back in the day. Seat and seat post, I went with what I had at the time, a red seat post, and something that still had some padding, but kind of matches a Cash Max Aero shape. But I'm really stoked that the uni seats are going to be coming back out because I did have a yellow uni seat too. The yellow uni seat actually won at that local track in Connecticut, selling magazines. So that'll be the next addition to this. The drivetrain, everything's Euro bottom bracket now. Don't have an American bottom bracket. So I couldn't go with one-piece cranks. I went with what was kind of period correct redline flights, even though I wouldn't have had them on this bike at the time. I did have flights eventually, so I figured that still worked. The sprocket and the spider I went with because I had one of those Addix graphite sprockets, which if you've ever seen those, they've got a few extra holes drilled in them. And I figured this night looked closest to that. And then the spider kind of gave me the one-piece Sagino spider vibes with the indents in it. So decided to throw that on there as well. And then the pedals are actually my DX pedals from back in late mid 80s when I was racing, had flights on, had moved past the Torker at that point, was on a GHP, but I've held on to these pedals all that time too. So you can see I painted them black. At one point they were red. I got to get them back to red at this point. The one thing I didn't get is I had a red Pro Neck stem and I want to get the red Night BMX stem, but This one worked out anyway, because this is the profile stem that a buddy of mine gave me. He couldn't be here this week and he really wants to be at Dirtyfest. So shout out to Jimmy. He kind of came here in spirit through his stem on my bike. So got him to California anyway. And that's a big part of me building this bike and getting out here to begin with, is growing up in Connecticut on the East Coast, not really traveling to a lot of races, just traveling around New England. I always wanted to race in California. California just looked like the place to be. Everything happened out here, all the pros in the magazines, all the big races. So this is actually my first time ever in California racing BMX. I've been here a ton of times over the, excuse me, the last 20 years, but never ridden a bike in California, taken tons of family vacations here. So to show up, be on a Torker that matches what I was riding back in the 80s and racing an old school downhill track, dirt turns, dirt jumps, flat turns, not a lick of pavement in sight, has just been awesome. It's been a blast this weekend. So being a Torker fan from back in the 80s, it's cool to see them coming back, especially the way they did. The thought that went into the frame and fork to begin with, even down to the stickers, like watching the videos where Bill talked a little bit about how like the head tube sticker, for example, kind of wraps around the welds a little bit. One thing when I was a kid that always kind of like bothered me a little bit was the frame and fork stickers with the chrome background. I was always like, why did they do that? I mean, I knew because it matched the chrome frames, which is what most people bought. But on the painted frames, I thought they should have had a clear background. But now looking back and wanting to be old school, I was so psyched that they came back with the chrome background stickers on the painted frames too. So it's just incredible the thought that's gone into the frame, with the gusset behind the bottom bracket, the fisheye gussets in the back. With the MX26, it really matches the proportions of what the 20-inch would have been. This thing rides incredible. It's so smooth. I've got another 26-inch Repop Cruiser that's a really nice bike, but for some reason, this just feels more solid and more smooth. It's really an awesome riding bike. I've talked to a bunch of guys this weekend that have sat on it, wanted to try it out. Hopefully that'll roll into a few more sales. But as Torker continues, like I said, the uni seat, I'm glad to see they're bringing that back. The Max pants, I'd love to see, you know, a starting gate sometime with Torker up there, the Max pants, the old school style jerseys, you know, a top pro winning USA BMX #1 in an old school style Torker uniform with a chrome frame and fork. You know, there's going to be some new school in there, but just to have that old school look, bring back those vibes for us old guys, that would be the cherry on the cake, I think. So